Yes, starting a blog is a great idea. However, there are things that everyone should consider before diving in head first. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 30-Day Blog Challenge weekly podcast. My name is João, and this is a show for bloggers all about blogging. On this very first episode, we'll be talking with Kayla Sloan from kaylasloan.com. Kayla and I are going to be discussing her blogging journey, personal experience, and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Kayla, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you so much. Thank you again for accepting our invitation. It's such an honor to having you here. And without further waiting, let's get started, alright?
Sounds good.
Alright, Kayla, for those listeners who are not familiar with your work, go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself and what kaylasloan.com is all about.
I started my blog about 4 years ago, and I actually started on a different domain. And I just recently rebranded to my name. And that's something I really recommend to a lot of people who are starting blogs is to think really carefully about how you start your site because um, I think bloggers who blog for a long time sometimes outgrow their brand. So that's why I think the industry is moving toward branding blogs with just your individual name. Um, and my site is basically focused on helping people improve their personal finances and start living a life that they really dream about and are passionate about, whether that means being employed traditionally or, leaving that traditional employment and finding a way to make money with their own business like I've done.
Right, but let's take a step back because everyone should understand their reason for becoming a blogger, right? What was your initial reason for getting into it?
When I got started a few years ago, I really started to just have a creative outlet. I never imagined that blogging would be something that I would do for my full time job, but it's grown to something I could just never even imagine. And I was not feeling very fulfilled with my day job. And so I started blogging just to have an outlet online.
So you didn't know that you wanted to make this a full-time
No,
gig, right? You're just getting into it for
yeah, I
fun.
had no idea. I didn't even know people really made money from blogging. I'd obviously heard of it a little bit, but I think when I got started, I really just thought of it as a hobby. And then as I got a little further and some opportunities started presenting themselves so that I could make money, I still didn't really think of it as a business or as something I could do full time. It was really just something that was a little extra in my budget. And then it just kept growing and growing faster than I even thought possible.
Right, and it's crazy how much your blog grows since then. Now, we all know it takes more than luck to start a successful blog, right? What's the story around how you got your blogging adventure off the ground?
So I really got started blogging because my finances were a disaster, which I already kind of talked about. And when I started, I was blogging anonymously to be able to be transparent and really share my journey with paying off debt and getting my finances in order with all of my readers. And I just really wanted to, use that for accountability and be able to be really open with people and hopefully inspire other people to, make improvements to their lives as well. And slowly over time, I just realized that if I wanted to take my blog to the next level, and once I realized I could make money from my blog, that's when I decided to, start connecting with my readers on an even deeper level by no longer being anonymous.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about your niche. So before you even begin blogging, you need to choose the perfect niche, right? It's one of the major keys to having a great site.
Right.
How did you decide on the topic of your blog?
Um, I at the time was just really looking for something creative, something I could blog about long term because as you said, what you choose to blog about is very important. You have to make sure it's something you have plenty of time to or plenty of things to say, plenty of, things you can talk about over the long term. Otherwise, you'll probably just burn out and won't be able to continue blogging over the long term. For me, I decided to choose personal finance. My personal finances were a disaster. I wasn't able to sleep through the night very well. I was so like stressed out about
And you
money and
wanted to help other people, right?
yes, exactly. And so I thought, sharing my journey would help others to, make improvements in their lives as well.
So taking another step back, in the very early days, how much time would you say went into getting KaylaSloan.com up and running? So since the very beginning, you decided, all right, I want to have a blog until KaylaSloan.com is up and running.
Yeah, I really went the DIY route. I didn't have a lot of money to invest in having people help me with my blog, so I did everything myself. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I was basically writing posts, but I didn't focus on, social media. I didn't do photos. I didn't do anything like that. So it was very basic. I probably spent, oh, I don't know, just a couple hours a week on it at first, but after I got more serious into blogging and realized I could turn it into a business and something that would be long term for me, then I started spending more and more time on it. And I was still working full time and I was spending another 20 or so hours a week on my site and on my freelance business that came from my blog. And that's when I decided I had to make the choice of whether or not to give up my job or give up some of my blogging hobbies. And I didn't want to give up the blog, so I gave up my job instead and took it full time.
And you did well. Now there are a few costs people may run into when building a blog, right? A lot of people are not aware of this. Did you incur with a lot of costs in the beginning stages of this
Luckily,
venture?
I kept it bootstrapped pretty well. As I said, since I didn't have a lot of
Yeah,
money,
but
so
you will
I
always run up with some
right.
small costs, right?
Yeah, you still have to pay for some things. I mean, there's some things you can't get around. I mean, you can try to be creative and teach yourself things and get around costs as much as possible, but you still have to pay for some things like your domain name or hosting and things like that. But I mean, you can pretty much DIY the rest of it if you take the time to figure out how to do that.
So now you are a well-known expert in business and money and personal finances, and people rely on you for fresh ideas, right? And how do you continually come up with creative content for your blog? This is hard.
Yeah, it
It is
is.
hard, right?
Yeah. After blogging for a few years, it gets kind of hard. And I've come up with different ways to come up with new ideas. I rely on my friends and family, questions I'm asked by readers, things that happen in my life. Sometimes I'll write about, hot topics in the news and put my spin on it or how it might affect, me or my readers as new policies and things come out of, government and stuff like that. So I just try to pay attention to current events and things that are going on around me in life.
Now let's talk a little bit about organization. Sticking to a solid strategy can be hard, especially if you do it full time like you.
Yeah,
What do you do
I
to stay
I have
organized
like
and on
a
track?
super crazy color-coded calendar that I keep in my Google Drive, and I also use Asana, which is like a free organization tool, and it's really awesome for helping me stick to deadlines.
Now, one of the things that really comes to the eye is the design of your blog. It's clean, it's beautiful, it's super user friendly, and we out here at 30 Day Blog Challenge absolutely love it. Well, my real question is how do you manage the look and feel of your
Um,
website?
These days, I have a designer and she is amazing. I did my first blog design myself and it was definitely functional, but it wasn't beautiful. And so, now that I do have a budget for hiring help, that is one thing I've outsourced. I still, run the day to day side of the blog myself, but I did not do the design. But it's on WordPress, which is pretty user friendly.
Now, Kayla, for the golden question, a lot of people want to know how you make money with blogging. Um, you don't need to dig in on this too much. For those listeners who don't know, Kayla has a monthly online income report, and you can see further information on her blog. So, Kayla, please don't go too deep on this. But what's your strategy for monetizing your website?
Directly from my blog, I make a small portion of my income, and I do that mostly through partnering with brands, doing a few sponsored posts and some advertisers and affiliate marketing. The biggest chunk of my income comes from freelance services, but I do get most of those clients as a result of my blog.
Kayla, last question. For all the new bloggers out there, getting their content seen can be a struggle. What's your strategy to distribute and promote your content? How do you do it?
For me, social media is the big one because it's free and it works really well. Yeah, so I use Facebook, I use Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram. I think Pinterest is really the biggest traffic driver for me right now, with Facebook as second.
All right, we are nearing the end of the show. Let's wrap it up with a few fun rapid fire questions. Kaylee, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Fantastic, let's do it. Here we go.
Okay.
First question. Who is your blogging hero and why?
My blogging hero is Kat Alford from katherinealford.com. She has been there for me every step of the way and really mentored me and helped me grow as a blogger and as a person. And she's just really, really awesome. So,
Second question. Do you have a favorite quote? If so, what is it?
my favorite quote is, "She believed she could, so she did." And I just find it to be really inspiring and, helpful, I think. So,
Now let's pretend you decided to create a new blog today or tomorrow.
right.
What would your new blog be about?
I think it would be about minimalism.
Wow, that's interesting. Why minimalism?
Yeah, I think it's something that I've been working towards for a few years, and it's actually really, it can go with a lot of other topics. And so I think it's something that could be blogged about, for a long time.
Uh, I hate when people ask me these kind of questions, but where do you see yourself and your blog in 5 years?
Oh, that is a tough one. I think for me, I want to be featured on more national sites and, in the news and things like that. So I really just want to grow and be able to be a expert and help people, make changes in their lives.
Kayla, for you, what's the best thing about being a blogger?
Definitely working from home in my pajamas is the best thing about being a blogger.
Who doesn't like that? And finally, last question. Can you give our listeners 3 tips for starting out on their blogging journey?
Yeah. My 3 tips would be number one, make sure you pick something that you're really passionate about. As we talked about earlier, you can fizzle out as a blogger if you don't choose a niche or a topic that you really care about. Blogging's a lot of work, so not a lot of people realize that. The second thing would be go ahead and start as a self-hosted blogger. There are free blog platforms out there, but if you really want to take your blog seriously, you need to get your domain name, yeah, and your hosting. So, and the third thing is just be yourself. Find your voice. Don't do something that other people are doing. Don't just do it because you see other people doing it. Do what feels right to you and what makes sense for your audience and for yourself.
Alright, unfortunately, we got to the end of our show. I'd like to thank Kayla from KaylaSloan.com for joining us today. Kayla, thank you so much for your time. It was great.
Yes, thank you.
And of course, thanks to you, the listeners, for tuning in to the 30-day blog challenge. If you're looking for further tips and tricks regarding today's show, we have just created an epic new guide on 7 things to consider before starting a blog. Click on the link below to check it out. And don't forget to go to kaylaslon.com where you'll find the best personal finances tips and one of the best examples of a successful blogger out there. Come back every Wednesday for more exciting interviews with some of the top bloggers on the web. Until next time, blog on and blog often.